Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. I'm your host, Chris Finn, and I am excited to have a guest with us, Jim Hardy. If you guys don't know him, you need to, particularly if you have kids. Got to meet him probably 2 or 3 years ago up in Raleigh, at our other facility. He is known in the industry for helping other coaches figure out how to get golfers into the game, how to teach particularly young players who are just starting out. So really excited to have you on here, Jim. Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So Jim,
Happy to talk golf.
yeah, for sure, man. So we were starting to get into a really good conversation before I hit record. That was a rookie mistake on my part. But we were talking about how, just the game of golf has changed from an instructional standpoint for beginners. And I would love to hear, your perspective, having been in the game for a long time and seen the evolution. I've obviously seen it on the physical side, and people actually care what fitness is for golf now, which is kind of cool for me. But you've seen the instructional side evolve over decades. And as we were talking before, you talked about how the level of instruction and the type of instruction and how we intro people into the game of golf has changed. So I'm really curious if you could share for listeners, like, what has that evolution been? Where did it start, and where has it gotten to?
Sure. So I got started teaching golf in the mid '90s in Houston, Texas, and that I got to enjoy what we call the Tiger bump.
Yeah.
Every time Tiger did something great on television, my phone would ring. Funny story, I ran into him because I did a little bit of work with Buick for a while, and I told him, I said, "Hey, every time you did something great, my phone would ring. I probably owe you a commission." And he said, "I'm doing okay. You keep that." And but I think a lot of teachers back then were really focused on teaching golf, and being very precise and very I would say critical, in that the grip had to be right, the posture had to be right, the stance had to be right. I'm reminded of the very first real golf lesson I got was a summer camp at Baywood Country Club in south of Houston, and it was August and it was 100 degrees, and the teacher went up and down the line on the driving range, and he was talking about some guy named Ben Hogan and how important the grip was. And we weren't going to hit one single shot until our grip was perfect. And so, that's evolved through the years to where we actually want the kids to start hitting golf balls immediately. We actually, teach and practice that we want instant activity. We want to use games-based learning. We want to teach very lightly. We use, at U.S Kids Golf, we use a 10-level player pathway that we've developed at Longleaf Golf and Family Club through the years that really does, our motto there is we make golf fun enough, long enough until the kids can't get enough. And the way we do that is we get instantly active hitting golf balls. In the very beginning, we teach them how to hold it by using a training grip on an oversized club called the yard club. And we teach them how to stand next to it, and we teach them how to swing it safely, and then we let them go. We start hitting golf balls right away, putting or pitching or chipping or driving. And I think that's changed through the years. The other thing that's changed a great deal is that we are now encouraging kids to get on the golf course maybe day one, where in the past we didn't. In fact, in Europe, it's still difficult for a beginner to get on the golf course because you have to have, you almost have to have a written permission slip from some PGA or
Oh, wow.
guy to get out on the golf course, because they don't want slow play out there, right? And so
Yeah.
by scaling the distance, though, we're able to get golfers out there right away, which I think is helpful. Other sports do that really well.
Yeah. Well, I think that was one of the coolest things. So I actually played in a charity event down at Longleaf a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it's one of the coolest things about that facility in the course is there's all the different tees. I have 3 kids. I have from 11 to 4, and that's one of the struggles. I take them out. I got to go find 25, 50 yards, depending who's hitting, and taking a rangefinder trying to find it. And I think that's one of the coolest things that U.S Kids and that you guys have done with that facility at Longleaf is making it accessible, to beginners.
Yeah, I would say real quick about the longleaf tee system. The USGA has adopted that. They call it the best tee, and they did something really smart. They came and saw our longleaf tee system. They tested it. We had several days out on the golf course where they were testing it, and they would go to the tee assessment area, hit a couple tee shots, and then whatever number their ball carried past, they would go play that tee for the day, and they found it to be very accurate and very fun.
Yeah.
They did something very smart though. They Instead of using the driver carry distance number, they used the 7-iron carry distance number because I think they probably came to the conclusion that everybody's really pretty good about knowing how far their 7-iron goes, and they'll lie about how far their driver goes.
You mean everyone doesn't drive at 300 yards?
It's man, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. How far you hit your driver? 300.
300. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
It carries 220 and rolls 80. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, so I think that one of the things that I always shout from the mountaintops is, keep it simple, make it fun, make golf fun enough so that the kids want to come back. Because I think in the beginning, a lot of times, I don't think we as golf instructors understand, for the beginner golfer coming to us, kids anyways, they didn't wake up this morning and say, "Hey, will you please take me to the best PGA golf instructor you can find so that I can learn the intricacies of golf."
Right.
What probably happened was mom heard that we did a good golf camp or a good after school class, and she wants to put her kid in something, because that's what parents do these days, is they pay for golf experience or outdoor experiences or extracurricular activities so that their kids are busy and productive and learning something. And so it's up to us then to, really kind of sell them on the game. And you won't sell it by making sure everything's perfect. You'll sell it by using games-based learning, teaching lightly, having an award system that creates that extrinsic motivation for the first several levels, and then that turns into the intrinsic motivation that carries them through to where they become a lifelong golfer.
Awesome. And you mentioned kind of, having games and not, it's funny. Fortunately, I'll see kids on a range with an instructor, they're like 8 years old and they're working like technique. And I'm like, I just think of my kids. I'm like, wow, they would be so bored with that. And then, so what sort of games are like, when you say a game, like what does that look like for like, just to give people an idea of like, different facets of the game, whether it's chipping or putting? Like, how do you guys make games of that, or what have you found that's really successful?
Sure. So a couple of my favorites would be tic-tac-toe for putting, because if you can make a tic-tac-toe, then you've controlled the distance and direction of your golf ball rolling along the ground 3 times.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
So I can teach a kid how to hold a putter, how to stand next to it, and how to swing it safely, and then we go play tic-tac-toe, and the game itself teaches them. Another game would be bullseye. We use rings that we purchase from eGolf Ring, where we have a 16-foot diameter, so you're 8 feet from the hole, and a 24-foot, so you're 12 feet from the hole, and a 6-foot, so you're 3 feet from the hole and such. So we have this bullseye game set up, and so if you're pitching or chipping from next to the green, we've actually come up with a hurdle. Actually, it's used for training dogs.
Oh, really?
Dog hurdle. So we stand them, we have them set in front of that and hit pitch shots over the dog hurdle onto the green into the bullseye. And so the game itself will teach the skill that you're trying to bring in there. If we remember that golf is a stick and a ball, and if you give any kid a stick and a ball, a game will break out. It might look like golf, it might look like hockey, but a game will break out. And so if you organize it just a little bit and let the game provide that guided discovery, then you have the opportunity to teach. Because like we always say, we teach lightly. We'll give the forms. Here's how you hold it. Here's how you stand next to it. Here's how you swing it. Let's go play a game. Here's the object of the game, and begin playing. And then as they're playing, we can help them hit the next ball better by using those original teaching forms to reiterate what it is that they need to do better. In full swing, unfortunately, is the hardest thing to gamify. Simulators are great. Launch monitors are great. Putting trash cans out at a certain point and having them try to hit over them or hit them, that's great. So we do things with the beginners where we'll set something out there, range baskets or trash cans or something, so that they have a target to hit to, or between, and then we'll play games like stick to finish contests, because the last form in our full swing is brush the grass, stick to finish, show the shoe.
Right.
So you stick that finish, and so we'll have stick to finish contests so that they hit a shot, no matter where it goes, they need to hold their finish until I call their name, and so that helps, because we want them to swing. Now we can start talking about swing speed. We want them to swing as fast as they can, as long as they don't fall down.
Right.
They just need to finish somewhat in balance. And I'm not really even all that particular about that. I want them to stick the finish and show me some shoe, but if they are rocking a little bit, that's okay. I don't ever want to inhibit their desire to go fast. I want them to have permission to go fast.
When did that shift? That never used to be the, like, I guess that was never taught, right? Like, hey, it was control. Like what was the impetus that for that to change?
I love it. I'd have to give some credit to Dr. Rose with TPI.
Yeah.
He's the one that, in terms of golf, he talked about speed windows, where, a kid can go fast. And if you miss that speed window, it's tougher. It's not impossible, but it's tougher to get the speed. And so I think that I think we always were worried about timing and tempo and slow down your swing and such like that. And possibly because of the advent of video, where we can slow down the swing and see what it is that we want to see, we're much more comfortable with letting them go fast. If your eye is not trained for several decades to see a thing in a golf swing, you won't see it unless you slow it down. And so I think a lot of instructors wanted their kids to go slower, plus not understanding the swing as good as we do now. We know that fast is okay. You can square the club face to the path that you're on and go faster in the process than before. So anyway, so we do like speed. In fact, that's one of the ways that we can gamify it. We have a really super high tech swing speed trainer. It's a driver shaft with a grip on it with a golf ball glued to the other end. So it's probably a bit light. I was reading some of your information. It's probably a bit light. It's about 40% the weight of a driver.
Okay. Yeah.
But it makes a really cool swooshing sound.
Yeah.
So almost a whistle. And so we tell the kids when they do that, to get next to the swing speed radar and let's see a number.
Yeah.
And so we'll see, kids get up to nearly 100 miles an hour at quite a young age, swinging the swing speed trainer, and it gives them permission to go fast. Whereas, their parents, and this is an important piece of the puzzle too, is to get the parents in on the game, in on the what it is that we're teaching, so that they know to never say, please keep your head down, your left arm straight, and slow down your swing, which is their go-tos, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've said every parent ever of a golfer.
Right.
That's awesome. No, and I love that. And I think particularly you brought up, Greg, and the speed windows. And I think that was probably one of the more eye-opening things for me early on in my career, understanding that sort of stuff. And, the idea to get kids going faster earlier and seeing that be adopted more, I don't know. I'm sure you're seeing this. We see this now with, like, even the kids that are, high school now versus kids that were high school. I mean, shoot, even 5 years ago, they're way faster today.
Yes.
than they were.
Yes.
How big of an influence do you think this shift in the instructional world and what you guys do at U.S. Kids has had on that, as or growth of the game? What do you think some of the influences have been there?
I think, just us learning about, what creates speed, what creates a straight golf ball, and things like that. I think just us getting a better understanding. I also think Dr. Rose, I was one of the first golf professionals to go through his TPI training 120 years ago, it feels like. And I loved what he always said. And I do it all the time. I say, kids need to run, jump, skip, throw, fall down, get up and catch stuff. And then to define that further, it's a multi-plane, multi-skill, multi-directional activity. Dr. Rose always talked about that. And so we've tried to implement some of that in what we do with U.S. Kids Golf, because golf is an interesting sport in that it's a bit of a catch-all for anywhere from great athletes learning how to play golf to very introverted non-athletes trying to find something that they want to go do. And so they're not very athletic. And I've literally had to teach kids how to skip. And if you've ever tried to teach somebody anything, try to teach a person how to skip. It's probably the most difficult thing to teach. Anyway, so
my favorite thing with skipping is then when they don't get it right away, then you start questioning yourself and like, am I skipping correctly?
Right.
You almost overthink it. Yeah.
It's a very complicated action if you break it down. And then if you're a kid and you just do it, I don't know how I learned how to skip. I think I just watched somebody do it and did it.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so being more physically active is way better for their golf swing, right? If I can move my own weight explosively, that's important. So in our levels 1 through 5, where we're taking a beginner who's never touched a club to a golfer at level 5 who's about to break 50 for 9 holes, we don't do much of that. We do some swing speed training. We definitely want them to go fast, and we use the swing speed trainers because they're fun, and we have the little radars that we can measure their swing and speed, and we have some bars that we set for that. But as we get through level 6, 7, and 8, we feel like that's an advanced player. Level 9 and 10 is an elite player. And we most definitely then start talking about nutrition and hydration and strength and flexibility and stability. And so in order to be an athletic golfer, you have to have some control over that, and you have to be able to move yourself explosively and within some sort of balance. You have to stay balanced. Although Scotty Scheffler is just going to ruin that for everybody. He's just going to get this Scheffler shuffle. Everybody's going to try to do it. It's no need to stick to finish now. Just dance.
We just got to hope he's kind of like a Jim Furyk swing, and nobody really tries to like, hey, that works really well for him, but hopefully, people stick to what works for them.
Right.
So right. I'm curious particularly for listeners out there who have kids and or even just maybe them, as an adult trying to get into the game. How do you guys, you obviously laid out the levels there, just kind of at a high level. How do you go from that, first 5 levels to the kind of intermediate or advanced and then to elite? Like, what are the criterion that you guys look at? I think that's helpful kind of for categories for people listening of like understanding where they are in their golf development.
Yeah, so I think at each level, there is a scoring requirement. At level 1, for example, we play from 50 yards and you need to make 3 6s.
Okay.
And then at level 2, it's 100 yards and you make 3 6s. And at level 3, it's 150 yard and you make 3 6s. And then at level 4, you play 9 holes on what we call the 1350 course, which is 100-yard par 3s, 150-yard par 4s, and 200-yard par 5s. And we want you to shoot a 54 and then a 50. For level 5. And so from those distances, and then once we're in level 6 through 10, we assess your driver capability and we put you on the correct tee or the correct distance for that capability. So if you hit it 100 yards in the air because you're 7 years old and pretty good, then you'll play a 1,500-yard 9-hole golf course. Mm-hmm. And so and the older, newer students, are going to be able to hit it farther. So we have a tee for them. If they hit it 200 yards, they would play from our tee number 4. We're always working towards making sure that the challenge is not out of whack with the skill level. Right. So if I put a kid, like I learned, I have a replica, the Gene Littler Jr. 7-iron that I grew up using. And it weighs 50 pounds, it seems like, and it's stiff as a board because they took an adult club and chopped it down. So I think that's the other thing that's really key is that the equipment has to fit the kid for grip diameter, shaft flex, and height. Height is maybe the most important thing because we all the time as beginners show up, grandpa bought him a set of clubs from wherever and they're perfectly fine. They just don't fit. Right. They're too big, almost always too big because with kids, and I raised 4 kids and everything that we bought was going to be a little bit too big so that they could grow into them, except for golf clubs and bicycles because it's dangerous on bicycles and it won't work in golf. And so I think we fit by height. We use what we call the 2/3 solution so that the driver length should be 2/3 the height of the player, which is roughly just around the solar plexus on a human. If your driver's higher than that, then It starts to get too long and too heavy to swing correctly. We find that parents will sometimes buy longer drivers to gain a little bit of an advantage for length, but I think it's at the detriment of the golf swing technically, because then they start to get their arms moving away from them rather than close to them.
Right.
So they move slower, even though the club head goes faster.
Right.
So I got off track there a little bit, but I think to your question, we match. We have a scoring goal, and then we go backwards from there. We reverse engineer it so that we know this is how well we need to hit full swings. We need to hit 3 out of 5 that are pretty good, that go 25 yards or more at level 1, and then we need to be able to if we're near the green, we need to be able to finish that hole in 4 shots. 1 or 2 chips, 2 or 3 putts, and be able to finish that hole in that. And so then as you get better, then we can define that, right? So at level 10, you're going to need to hit 10 greens or more in order to hit your goals. In level 1, you're not going to hit any greens. Shoot, at level 5, you probably won't hit any greens. And so it really does. It kind of we reverse engineer it from the scoring goal, and we have the scoring goal set out to where level 1 is, you're just getting started. Can you make a 6 from 50 yards? And level 10 is, can you shoot even par for 9 holes from the correct distance based off your distance capability?
Right. So will you see as distance capability changes, let's say you have somebody who's at a certain level, will people go back a level if the distance is the issue? Because of the way that you guys have it, it tends, as people grow, they tend to stay at the same level. How does that change?
So as they grow, they get faster. That's just part of the deal. If you go from being a 42-inch human to a 60-inch human, you're going to go faster because you got longer levers. Yeah. And so the interesting thing, the balance that we have to do is that when we do tournaments, we do it by age and gender. And we have done mountains of research on how far each of those age groups and gender groups hit the golf ball, and so we tee them up at that spot.
Got it.
And so but while we're teaching, we actually teach by distance capability. So it could be that a 7-year-old who would play on our tee number 1 might not be playing that distance as they are growing through the game, but that's our aim. We want to get to that. Actually, we want to get past that. We'd love it if for our advanced and elite players, if they're hitting the ball farther than what they need to hit it for their tee based off their age and gender, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a growth pattern. We're looking to try to increase their speed, increase their centeredness of contact, so that they can hit the golf ball the required length. A 7-year-old boy who plays the number 1 tee, if they hit it 100 yards in the air, they can dominate that tour, because then they're hitting the right club into the green. If they're hitting it 60 yards in the air, now they're probably hitting some hybrids and 3-woods into the par 4s instead of 8 and 9 irons into the par 4s. Right. And so they see it, they see the other kids that are doing it. And so that inspires them to work harder at it and work at their speed.
So I want to ask, because obviously, U.S. Kids is one of the biggest junior tours there is. So you obviously have seen kids grow and develop and what they've become, as they've gone to college and beyond. What sort of, I know that we have junior parents currently and over the years who are hell bent on tons of tournaments and need to be the best, and they have, obviously the U.S. Kid World. I need to win 7, 8. What do you see in terms of, if we zoom out to, say you have an 8-year-old, right? It's kind of just getting going, or 8-year-old to 18, zoom out 10 years going to college. Do you see predictors, or what are, if you had to right now look at 58-year-olds, can you pick which one's going to be the better one, or are there so many other outside factors? I think this is an important discussion for parents to hear.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's shocking is that the kids who win the world championship, for example, in their age group, it's actually a fairly rare thing that a kid will win our world championship and then go on to be a winner on tour. We're starting to get more and more of those. For the longest time, it was a trivia question in our coach certification because there was only one. Lexi Thompson was the only person that had won a world championship and then gone on to win a PGA Tour event, or sorry, an LPGA Tour event. And now there's several, both male and female, but there's not as many as you would think. Yeah. And part of the problem is, or part of the reasoning is that either the kid who wins the 8-year-old girls division, for example, is the tallest, most mature 8-year-old in that group, and or they're using a driver that's too long, in my opinion, so they're driving it farther than some of the other girls, and so their scores are going to be affected by that because they're hitting shorter irons into the green. Right. So for long-term development, that's actually a bad thing. Yeah. Because they're buying that distance versus working on their technique and going faster. And so that's the interesting thing, is that the predictor would be, it's easy to see that those kids are really, really good. I actually look at going through the history and looking through old pictures at World Championship award ceremonies. It's really cool to see Brooks Koepka and Justin Thomas and several other big name players, both male and female, collecting their second, third, and fourth place trophies at the World Championships, but never having won it. Yeah. Because I think that means that they're probably average sized, but really good. And got beat by somebody that was a little bit taller or more mature or stronger.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's such great insight. And I think, hopefully those of you with kids listening, rewind and listen to that again.
I think the important thing is that you just keep, as the old saying goes, can I be better than me today than I was yesterday? If you keep that going, you're going to be fine. Yeah. And the development is the key. The process will give us the outcome, and the outcome will tell us what to do with the process. And so it's just it's a circle all the time, working that way.
So wise words for everyone to hear. And Jim, so if we have people, who are maybe they're beginners or thinking about getting into the game, what's the best way for them to, whether it's reach out to you, U.S. Kids, like what's the best resource for them to kind of find the information, kind of keep up with what you're doing, go from there?
Yeah. So, just a shameless plug for U.S. Kids Golf. We have a Find a Coach page on the uskidsgolf.com website, and you can find a coach by putting in your zip code. And there's lots and lots of good golf coaches out there. The thing that I would look for, though, is you need some sort of a curriculum or pathway to follow. Otherwise, you get kind of lost in the woods, because back when I first started teaching kids, we didn't really have necessarily a curriculum. We didn't have a pathway. But if you think about how elementary school works, in first grade and kindergarten, you learn your ABCs and you learn your numbers. And then in first and second grade, you start to put the letters together to spell cat and dog, and then you put the numbers together to be able to count things, and then maybe add 2 apples with 2 apples. And so it just gradually grows. That's called cognitive scaffolding. And so you need some sort of a pathway that you can enter into at whatever level you're at, right? If your kid has already played some, he might not start at level 1 with us. He might start at level 4. And we just plug him into that and keep on going. I think too, in the beginning, it needs to be rich with awards, so that extrinsic motivation will carry them long enough for the intrinsic motivation to kick in. Because like I said, the kids are coming because their mom brought them, not because they have a deep desire to learn how to play golf. And so if they're winning awards and going through that, then they're going to stay longer. We actually borrow something from the video game manufacturers in that regard, if you got addicted to Angry Birds like I did, it was because on level 1, you were 80% successful. Yeah. It wasn't a lay down. You had to try, but you were 80% successful. And so you went to level 2 and you were probably 75% successful, and you went to level 3 and you were 70. And so we try to build on that and try to create our curriculum so that you can win awards in level 1 for knowing which end to hold, basically. Right. and don't fall down.
Yeah.
It doesn't take very much to win an award in level 1, but then in level 10, it now, instead of 80% successful, you have an 80% plus fail rate
Right.
at level 10 as you try to go through those skills. But by that time, you're already motivated. You're internally motivated to continue on with the game.
That's brilliant. Yeah. So, hey, Jim, I got to thank you so much for your time and insight today. And, for everyone listening, definitely we'll make sure to put in the links in the show notes for U.S. Kids. And really, and Jim, also, I know you guys, like my kids have the U.S. Kid Golf. We talked about equipment. Can we order, or people listening, can they get the clubs through the U.S. Kids website, or what's the best way for them to kind of research what equipment?
Absolutely. You can go either to your local green grass facility or big box facility, and you can try them out. That's the ideal way, is to get measured. If you're in that 51-inch range, hit that orange driver a few times, you'll love it, and then buy that set. Please try to not fall into the temptation of, well, my kid is just an inch below the purple level, I'm going to get the purple level.
Yeah.
We actually say it's much better for a kid to grow out of a set of clubs and be using a set of clubs that are a little bit too short than to ever use a set of clubs that are a little too long. So we don't want that. It's okay for them to grow out of them, but they won't grow into them. They won't like the game if you give them clubs that don't fit.
Sure. Awesome. Well, lots of false myths and such around junior golf busted today. So thank you, Jim, so much for sharing your experience, shedding some light on the sometimes confusing world of junior golf, and also just development and how to develop a golfer. And I think there's so many things we talked a lot about in lights of juniors, but also adults who are getting into the game, and understanding, going out and trying to, your first time playing from 7,000 yards is, you're not going to come back. Like, play from the correct tees, and the game is a lot more fun. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, thanks for doing what you do too, to keep people going faster and staying healthy. Don't hurt yourself. Do it right.
Yeah,
do it correctly,
for sure.
so that you don't hurt yourself. Because there's a lot of people out there that are, swinging lead pipes and doing it the VJ Singh way. I don't know how he gets away with that, but without hurting himself. Yeah. But I think there's plenty of information out there now where we can do it right, scientifically do it right.
100%.
So appreciate your efforts on that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it's just so fun to get to chat with somebody so involved in the beginning of the growth of the game. I feel like we kind of live, when we talk about growing the game, kind of on the back end and keeping people playing for as long as possible. But I also think about, for juniors, it's, for a lot of kids, continuing to play the game is maybe going to play in college, or maybe we get the college kids and they want to keep playing after that. I think there's a longevity element at all the different levels. But I think one of the areas that is often overlooked is how to get into the game and how to continue to improve. And so I think, in my opinion, from personal experience, my kids, U.S. Kids is a great framework, and there's tons of research. That's one of the reasons I love what you guys do as well. So thank you so much for hanging with us today, Jim, and thank you guys for listening. And we'll look forward to catching you guys on the next episode.